Top right to you.
Okay.
Are you cool with that? Are you cool with it? If you're comfortable with it, I'm good with it. I remember you were asking us.
I want all of you to look good. I'm this background, So,
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
You have grown up.
I know. I'm going to be 18 this year, which is crazy because I was 14.
Not 18.
Yeah. I'm literally driving now, which is just ridiculous.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Those times with my kids, and it was just like a completely different world.
Yeah.
And where is everybody? Is everybody on the West Coast? All of you on the West Coast?
I'm actually in Vancouver, British Columbia.
Right.
Yeah, I'm in Orlando.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm in Porter Ranch.
Oh, I didn't know you was out there.
Yes. Sorry,
Damn.
1 second. Yes, Porter Ranch. Until I can get home back to Houston.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. What are you working on out there, young lady?
You talking to me?
Are you talking to me? Young lady, she was like, you can't be talking. What?
There's another young lady on the phone too.
I'm sorry. My bad.
I'm just like really excited about this podcast stuff that I've got going on while, I'm on a forced hiatus, but I'm excited because we were like the number one podcast for film and TV last week. And we're like the 29th podcast in the country right now. And so like, I'm excited.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
That sounds special.
I didn't know people would give a damn. So it's kind of cool.
No.
I think damn, yeah.
Yeah. That's really dope. And so can I just ask what inspired you to do that?
Because I was sitting at home and I was bored. And I was driving my husband crazy because it's like we can't work, like certain productions, like we're in a holding pattern while somebody else is working until you can work and so he was like, well, people love Bonnet Chronicles. Why don't you just talk about stuff that's going on in the world and I'll join you and put my opinion in. And so I was like, all right, let's do it. And so went out and found this company because the lady that I'm on the series with, her name is comedian Miss Pat. And she does a podcast. And she was like, you need to do a podcast, And so she was like, I'm serious, Tami, here's the number, call these people, do it. And so once I talked to my husband, we just did it.
Copy. I personally think it's brilliant. I would have never come up with that idea in a million years, but the minute you said it.
Yes, you would have.
No, I mean for y'all.
You don't have the time. You don't have the time. That's your problem.
That's true. But for Bonnet Chronicles, I would have never thought of it. But it's now that you mention it, it's a no-brainer for so many reasons. One, just having
wait, hold up on that because we're gonna go live and I want to get into Bonnet Chronicles.
My bad. Yo, my shirt is too blown out. Should I change my shirt?
I would like you to. It is a little bright.
I'm gonna find something a little better.
Yeah, because you're blending into the wall.
Oh my God.
Lamonia, how are you?
I'm doing really well. It's good to see you. I'm glad you could join us. I'm really happy about that. I think everybody's happy to see you guys and excited about this movie. I'm really excited about it. I was really happy to see it. I was cracking up. I'm telling you right now, I was really cracking up.
They sent me, of course, the link ahead of time. And so I watched it, cracked up. And then I said, well, let me go rent it, support just the overall movement of the movie. So I rented it, cracked up. And then I was like, I gotta buy this so that I can just have it much better. Always, because they only give you 48 hours when you rent it,
Right.
So I was like, I gotta buy it so that I can just have it, and watched it again. And like it's always like I see something that I didn't see the first time. So that's why the other day in my story I was like, this is so funny.
Thank you.
I never paid attention I'm sorry, am I talking? Do you want to save this? But like, I never paid attention to how you were like, put the camera right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, I don't know why I didn't catch that the first time, but I hollered when Romney did that. So yeah, I catch a lot of different things every time.
You do.
It's so many incredible elements.
Well,
thank
that
you.
being you, young man. So, you know, why don't we start with the three of you introducing yourselves to the audience who's viewing, just like your name, a little background, and the role you played in the movie.
Me?
Okay.
We'll start with you.
Yeah.
Okay. My name's Romany Malco.
You freezing, Romany.
I'm freezing up.
Not for me. You're good on my side.
Yeah, you're good on my screen. I think Tami is freezing.
So I'm the one that's freezing.
Yeah.
It's still frozen, guys?
It's in and out right now.
Yeah, it goes in and out a little bit. I have noticed that it's been going in and out. Let me open myself up.
But you can hear me.
I'm gonna turn on my light. It's getting dark.
Don't worry, I have control at my fingertips. I'm talking to the producers constantly over here on this. I don't.
Boom.
Although I hear you're okay on the live stream, so you're just freezing up for us. So you're okay on the live stream. I have control right here. So
okay, cool.
So you're good. Okay, Romney, everything's good on the live stream. So we just, yeah, you're good. Intro.
Okay, hey everybody, my name's Romany Malco. You might, I don't know how I'm supposed to introduce myself, but I am the writer, director of this project, and also one of the actors in the project. I am really extremely excited to be here with my cast members, who this film would not be what it was if it were not for these individuals. So let me shut down right there and pass it along to y'all.
Okay, I guess I'll go. I am Alkoya Brunson. I play Eric Jackson. I guess I don't know really how to introduce myself, but yeah.
You did really well. Throw it to Tami whenever you're ready.
Yep, Tami, go for it.
Well, I'm Tami Roman. Okay, so I'm Tami Roman, and I play Sharia. And, you know, me and my brother Tijuana have quite interesting dynamic and relationship that if you've watched the movie, you are fully aware of this.
So let me get into it. I talked to you a little earlier this week, Romney, but I do want to know a little bit about the journey of the film since 2018, and then why you chose a mockumentary style instead of a narrative feature.
Good question. So when you say the journey of the film, could you be a little specific?
Well, you did the film in 2018, and now we're in 2020. Just want to know what have you been doing with it? Has it gone to festivals? Have other people seen it? You know.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, I just go back 1 year and say that in 2017, I filmed in March, had to take a break to shoot something called Night School with Kevin Hart, Tiffany Haddish, Al Madrigal for Will Packer Productions. Also, Rob Riggle, Marilyn Rajgub, and Winters. And then I came back after that to shoot the rest of the film. And definitely from the beginning to taking that break to coming back, I was definitely a clearer director because during that time, I was also editing the film while shooting Night School. And through the editing process, I began to learn how to economize my shots. So when I came back to the set, the last 5-6 days of shooting, I was a lot clearer, and it was editing as I was going along, which really helped me speed up the process of the film. So I started editing, and a lady by the name of Shannon Baker Davis, who is an editor on multiple projects, was supposed to be editing my project, our project, but unfortunately, fortunately, she booked this great job on Insecure, editing there, and didn't have the time. So I ended up editing myself in 2018 and getting a lot of notes from her, and also getting a lot of notes from my producer's wife, Jessica, who is a best-selling, New York Times best-selling author. And between the two of them, I think there was some incredibly poignant notes and brutal notes that just needed to be had. When you're making a film, there just really is no room for fluff. And so from that point, as we began to realize that we had put together this film, we thought it would be a good idea to distribute the film to, or try to get the film to certain film festivals. However, I was never enamored with the idea of being in a Sundance Film Festival or being in Tribeca Film Festival. The only prestigious film festival I was really interested in was South by Southwest, but I just couldn't meet the deadlines. We had finished our film at a time where I would have, I just didn't have reasonable time to submit something quality. And the next best option would be to get the film into the film festivals where a lot of our crowdfunding money had come from. That would be places like Nashville, Florida, Atlanta, and New York. Brooklyn, New York was a big place. So we began to submit to those places and got accepted in those festivals. And throughout 2018, we won like 6 or 7 awards. We won Best Male Lead Actor, Best Music, Best Editor, and we won the Audience Award twice, once in the Florida Film Festival, once in the Nashville Film Festival. We were hosted as a feature film for the Atlanta Film Festival, in which we packed a 390 seat theater. And just in seeing those reactions from the public, it really gave me the sense that we actually had something special. In the Atlanta Film Festival, something that was really interesting that happened was that James Lopez, he is the president of Will Packer Productions. Will Packer Productions puts out films like Girls Trip, Think Like a Man. They've also put out Ride Along, and a number of incredible urban films, predominantly Black films. And James Lopez saw it and was like, this is incredible. He didn't say a word to me. He just said, this is incredible. And he saw the audience's reaction after the film. And he went back to his office and spoke to Will Packer and said, you have to see the film. I guess they watched it in Will Packer's theater. And maybe within 2 weeks of that, called me and said at like 10:30 at night to tell me that they wanted to come on board and help me sell the film. And they then began hosting screenings for a multitude of distributors of all different tiers. And those screenings went really well. We had multiple offers, and ultimately we had an idea of what type of deal we wanted. And we met into some roadblocks. We committed to one distributor who then gave us an advancement on the film and then disappeared. We never saw the film. So we never saw him again. As a result of that, our film was hemmed up for like 6-7 months. And we had to track that person down and eventually go after them legally in order to get them to return a call. And at which point that delay, we didn't know would be a serendipitous delay, meaning that delay put us in, it forced us to have to find another deal. And that next deal would then take a certain amount of time to negotiate. And then it would force us to be released at the time that we ended up being released, which is post, in the midst of the protests, COVID-19, post George Floyd. And I'm telling you right now, it couldn't have set a better stage for the film.
That's great. That's really great. There are a lot of people watching right now and listening that are making films on their own. So I wanted them to hear the journey of how you did this on your own and how wonderful a project it turned out. I have a question from the audience early on, and it's a good question. It's about castings, saying that you cast almost just like perfectly. So how did everyone end up, securing their role? Tami, you go first. How did you secure your role? They're saying it seems like it was written just for you.
I got an email and it said, hey, I watch you on Bonnet Chronicles and I want you to be in my movie. I don't know if you know who I am, but my name is Romany Malco. So if you're interested, give me a call. And I was like, you know what? People got to stop playing on my phone, and I'm going to take my email address off of my bio because this is the type of stuff I don't want. And so I looked at the email and I was like, but what if it really is Romany? So I started doing that to myself. And I said, okay, I'm just going to call and see. And I called and it was the real Romany Malco. And we had this conversation and he just said, yo, I'm doing this film. It's based on this character, Tijuana Jackson. He throws everything at you instantly. He's like, here's a few links. You can look at what I got going on. Look at my, my crowdfunding, see what the character's all about. And we starting in about 2 weeks. And I want you to play my sister. And I was like, okay. So, after talking to him, but still not actually seeing him, just talking to him on the phone. And I still was like, is this really real? So when my agent got involved and, she was like, nope, it's real. Here's the locations. And I got there on the first day. And when you sit at home and you watch other people's projects, I've been a fan of Romany's work, who doesn't watch This Is Us and who, and all the great shows that, and who didn't see Think Like a Man, you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm familiar with him and it's like, yo, I would have loved to have been in that or done that or worked with him. And so to get the opportunity to actually do so was like really one of those experiences that felt surreal, but I showed up on set and he's an amazing director. I like to say there are directors and then there are directors, who really understand the journey of an actor. And he was very kid glove, you know what I mean? And understanding of us being actors and why we're there. And he didn't have to give us a lot of notes. He let us be creative and, do what we needed to do for the roles. And I just really had a pleasurable experience working with him. But that's how I got there.
Okay.
By email.
That's great. And you guys seem like real brother and sister in the movie. Does the fantastic young man who plays your nephew. You guys seem like uncle and nephew. So let's hear a bit about your journey too.
So basically in 2015, I did this movie with Romany called Almost Christmas. With Monique and all like these incredible people. And then I was walking, I had just I wrapped from set. And we saw each other in the parking lot and he was like, yo, you're amazing. Da, da, da. And he's like, well, I'm doing this movie. And he was like, you would be perfect for the role. And he's like, I'm going to contact you. So I was like, okay. Well, he's like, I'm getting it, it's going to happen and I'm going to contact you when I'm ready. And lo and behold, a year later, out of the blue, Romany was like, I'm ready for you now. And I was like, what? It's so funny because I had forgot. But, and it's something, I literally had forgot because it was like a year. And it's something because, it's so incredible for a person to tell you something and keep their promises because people don't keep their promises nowadays, and everything is all especially in this industry. No, you don't when people tell you stuff like that, you're like, okay, it's like, yeah. But this man actually did call me and he was like, hey, and mind you, this is my first time going to LA, so this was even more special because I'm from Florida. So and then I was 2017, that's when we filmed it, and that's what happened. And to piggyback off of what Tami said about his directing, I love working with actors who are directors as well because they understand you. Directors are amazing as well, but it's just that chemistry of just pulling that performance out of you subtly. And I don't know, it's just he's an incredible director, actor,
Agreed.
activist, whatever. But yeah, that's that's how I got here. It's crazy.
And to add to even more of that incredible directing, you're directing yourself and you're in, I believe, every single scene. So tell me about the obstacles and some of the anecdotes with that. There have to be some funny stories about you directing yourself in every single scene and directing everyone else. How was that?
It definitely challenging. And I just want to say something about these two incredible performers, entertainers, actors. I just want to make it really clear that the reason I reached out to Bonnet Chronicles, and I'm not even ashamed, I'm just gonna keep it 100. I didn't know who Tami Roman was. I knew who Bonnet Chronicles was.
Thank God.
I was like, and what I noticed about Bonnet Chronicles is that for me, for the type of director that I aspire to be, the type of performances that I want, I really like people who are able to blur the lines between performance and reality. And if you go through Bonnet Chronicles, there are times when you can tell that, she's putting on a show, you know what I mean, and playing it up and just wanting to hit our trigger us. She's just triggering us, right? Got me in the comments, heated in the comments. But then there are times when the room gets silent because you're so engaged with Bonnet Chronicles that you forget that you're watching a performance. And that right there was the clue for me that was like, oh, that's the kind of person that I want to work with right there. And I just have become enamored with that because I think it's a very rare quality. I find that a lot of times when a person takes on the label of an actor, they show up to set feeling the obligation to act. And I want something different in every movie that I do moving forward. And same kind of thing with Alkoya is we were doing a scene where we were sitting at the big turkey dinner, Thanksgiving dinner, and the drama breaks out at the table, and Alkoya, being a younger kid at the table, we told him to go downstairs. It's in the play. His reaction to having to go downstairs pulled me out of it about 4 times because I straight up thought he was being told to go downstairs. He performed like he was being so violated. I swear to God, he pulled me out like 3 times. Like, wait, I was like, wait, what? And
thank you.
You're welcome, my brother. And of course, I just started researching him after that. He just has a way and a spirit about him in which the divide, again, he's blurring the line between what's a performance and what's real life in such a way that I was like, boom, perfect. And so, to Tami's note is that, yeah, I love the directors who show up to set, direct you, and you don't know you're being directed. And in my 20 years of working, I've always been like, I want to be like that guy. I want to be like that woman, and I've had I've had some people show up on the set of Weeds, show up on the set of A Million Little Things. And I've worked with a few directors over time who were like that. You didn't know you were being directed, but they were really getting you, they were steering you well. And I never forget when we first, and I'm sorry for being so long-winded, but just when we first sat down to do the first scene, I didn't say anything. We just sat down and did it. And it ended up kind of all of us doing this kind of over the top thing, almost as if we were just, it was a very first scene. It's the scene at the table where everybody's arguing. And we just kind of had like a vomit pass.
Oh, okay.
And after that, you looked around and you could kind of tell that the crew was like, oh, I kind of interpreted this scene differently, that kind of thing. And my only note to everyone at the table was, I need the audience to care about these characters. That was my only note.
Okay.
The next pass that we did of the same scene, same dialogue, the crew was laughing. We're laughing while some were in tears. My cousin had to walk out because she started bawling. She's crying. Too heavy. She couldn't take it. That was a testament to like the types of actors that showed up to this movie.
Okay.
Tami, Alkoya, Bajelin, they just, one note, they changed the whole game. set the tone for the whole movie. And
Thank
so,
you, Romany.
no,
Thank
you're
you
very
so
welcome.
much.
You're welcome. And I remember like it was yesterday. And the process of directing and, you know, and being in almost every scene was that it was, for me, it was actually necessary for this particular thing, because the way that it's written, Tijuana Jackson is actually kind of directing this documentary, right? Remember, like Tami said, he's like, "Yo, film that, get that, pick that up," right? It's part of his self-serving nature, and so it was very necessary. But also, it felt like being in the scene with the actors, with my actors, or you know, it took away this thing of being directed, right? And so it made everything quite collaborative. There were moments when Alkoya was directing me, when we're out on the pier at the Everglades and the gators are going by.
Yeah.
You know, Alkoya had me out there doing prison poses.
Yeah. It was so incredible to have that freedom. To be like, hey, try this, because I felt like, you know, you're an actor. So I'm like, well, let's just do this. You know,
Yeah.
it's like that type of thing. And it's just, I'm going to talk about the first scene we ever filmed. I had no idea what was happening. It was okay. I was sitting there and I had never filmed like that before. And I always wanted to do like this mockumentary thing. But I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to be present in the moment, because it was all just happening so fast. So I was just like, it's real. I literally put myself in the mindset of, this is my family. And we're in a heated argument right now. So it's just so incredible to like experience that type of direction and environment as a performer. That's so incredible. Thank you.
Is this your first time directing, a feature?
It's my first time directing a feature. I've actually been on features where the directors have asked me to help them direct, but I've never been credited for directing. Yeah.
Wow. Good job on your first film. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
another question that's come up that I was thinking about also is, was everything you did in the script, or did you have some moments of ad-libbing, freestyling, particularly Tijuana Jackson?
The sad thing is that we had such a limited budget, you know, that we didn't get to play as much as I would have loved. But we had this talent on here, like Tami. There's a line, I'm never gonna forget this line. There's a line in there where Tijuana Jackson says, you know, he gets into a beef with Tami, and Tami has this line where she's like, and that's why he ain't gonna never get no golden seal, because his ass is on the outside still behaving like he on the inside, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Tami comes up with these buttons that makes it feel like she made that up right there on the spot. And the way that she ended it, I ain't even gonna say what she did, because I don't know who's in the audience.
Right.
Made it so much more special. And so I would say that from what I observed and from what I recall, we had the liberty to do some improvising.
Okay.
But the reality is that improvising takes time. So what ends up happening is you find something that works within an improvised pass, and now you have to go over it and refine it, and then go over it again and refine it. So and until you get it nice and succinct. So we didn't have a whole lot of opportunity to do that, but we did have some opportunities. I don't know, maybe it was like 80% scripted, 20% improvised. Tami, you let me know. You tell me, Alkoya. I feel like we had some. We just regrettably didn't have a bunch of time. We were doing things in like 1 and 2 takes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
It definitely does not look like it was 1 or 2 takes. I've seen some movies that they only do 3 takes, and you can kind of tell. You can't tell with this one, so that's great.
Yeah. Thank
Literally.
you.
Even go ahead.
No, you good. You got it, bro. Please.
Oh, okay. Even when you see me and Romney, Tijuana riding in the car, most of that was literally on the spot. We just kept rolling. Like we just drove around, and I mean, 1, 2 takes. it never was like a thing where we had to do like 10 takes, 20 takes, 50 takes, like never.
Right.
Literally
Yeah.
like 3, 1 and done every time.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
And
that
some of the beautiful scenes of this movie are the relationship between uncle and nephew. I spoke to you
Yep.
about this, Romney, you know, about how it's so important that young men and young women too have these relations with their uncle. Like dads are very important, but those uncles, so special. Can you talk a little bit about why you wrote those scenes and what you were thinking when you were writing them? And Alkoya I can tell you had a great time doing them, filming them. Like I love this story about, you didn't even tell me the story about being on the deck with the alligators, which terrified me. I want to tell you that. But, to show that we never get to really see that in our films, and I thought it was just beautiful.
Thank you. I think that writing Tami's character, I had, because it was in mockumentary style, I had the liberty of writing someone who didn't want to be involved with it. He didn't want to be involved with it, and that was what I had intended for Sharia, which is Tami's character. And so because of that dynamic, it already set up that you could tell that she was going through something. She was a lot more private with her life, and that it solidified the idea that not everybody wants to be on the gram, not everybody's chasing fame, right? And it's a difficult role because she has to play that she has to be on camera and play that she doesn't want to be, and not play it with a wink, really not want to be.
Right.
And so that automatically isolated her character enough to where little Eric was kind of just left hanging, which completely justified all the escapades with his uncle from that point forward. Sometimes you're going through some personal stuff, and it's kind of nice to have the aunt or the uncle come and just, hold point for a minute while you work some things out, no matter how messy, no matter how many times you've been through it and how stupid you feel for being through it. You just need that sometimes. And, I'm a parent of 2, and I have moments where we need to like really work stuff out, and I'm a stepdad. So sometimes I just need the biological dad to roll through, what I'm saying? So anyway, to that point, it was important to me because my father was a very prominent person in my life. I was actually raised by my father, not my mom.
And the movie too, I saw the dedication. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And so a lot of the dynamics that I wrote into the script are dynamics very similar to what I experienced with me and my father. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, with all of that said, every single thing in the movie has a point. And the point is that the male figure is incredibly important. The tall grass, when you roll up to the house in the beginning of the movie, the tall grass, that represents not just a neglected lawn, but it represents a neglected family. It represents the absence of household income. It represents the absence of intimacy. It represents the absence of a male figure. It represents the absence of protection, family protection. It's just symbolic of that. And the relationship with Tijuana Jackson and little Eric, it gets to counter and say, okay, well, regardless of what the dynamic is between me and my sister, we have an opportunity to mold a young man who will eventually be an adult into being something better and more productive than us. And I especially as a stepdad, there's no child. If I spend enough time with any child, I'm falling in love with that child. And on my watch, I'm gonna be that child's guardian. You get what I'm saying? So I kind of wanted to promote that idea because I think that quite often we become judgmental of other people's situations and then become insensitive to the needs of the overall dynamic. And I wanted to show people that it is our duty as individuals to raise every child in the community. We are all a part of the village, regardless.
And I like that you didn't make Eric a judgmental nephew either. You know, he obviously knew where his uncle had been and maybe had heard some stories. Seems like Sharia would have said something offbeat about his uncle at some point while he was away, right? But he didn't judge him, and it was just a very, very beautiful relationship. And I think that anyone who hasn't seen it will appreciate it. I'm sure those that have do appreciate it. But can we talk about the machete scene? That big old machete. I have questions coming through ask them about the machete scene. So they want to know what made you do a scene with a machete. Like, yeah, they want to know.
Tami, I walked in on you while you was in the room. You want to start that off from your perspective?
You know, I feel like Tijuana did not want to acknowledge that he has not been a part of this family for some time. And so what oftentimes you want to pick up right where you left off, but life has kept going. And so I had taken over his area and his spot in the household, in the family, being the person who was taking on the task that he used to do when he was home. And so, he comes busting into my room like it's still his, and, not giving me, the privacy that I had worked hard to get in that particular living situation. So it ends up being, me and Tijuana going at it like we have done for all of our lives, because that was the backstory that I had given Sharia was, I love my brother, but he makes me sick sometimes. And I think, that's a feeling that happens in households. Like my two daughters, they know their sisters, they love each other, but they will fight till the cows come home until somebody else goes to mess with one of them, then they're jumping in. And that, and so that's how I felt my dynamic was with Romany. And to me, it just felt like, here he come again. We don't know how long he's staying. He done brought these white folks to the house, and now he doesn't want to respect that things have changed since he's been away. So that was my perspective of like, if you don't get all this that you done came here with out my room, because it's my room now.
And that's perfect, because to answer the question about the machete scene, how many times have you encountered someone that throws a tantrum when faced with adversity, or when being challenged, or when being held accountable? They throw a tantrum. And if you take a pause and you remove yourself from it, you look at them, and this person's 35 years old throwing a tantrum, and you go, oh, that must have worked for you in high school.
Right.
So that person dealing probably with post-traumatic stress syndrome is still stuck in that mode. And so every antic that you're seeing TJ act out in that sequence comes into the room. This is my room. The tantrum isn't working. She's like, I don't care. Get out. Okay. The machete that he grabs is really, he's putting on a show for the camera, a method of intimidation. Right. But he does need to cut some lawn to get to his car. Right. Right. Now, that machete was to add drama. Remember, he used that machete to go retrieve his nephew.
Right.
So this is a guy who's very conscious of the fact that there's a camera following him. He's putting on a show for them. And this machete kind of represents, and forgive me for this, but this machete represents a lot of the gun talk and a lot of the gun, I got gun behavior. This is his version of making idle threats with absolutely no intentions of having to use that machete for the camera. It's a show. It's like, it's no different than when rappers is like, I grabbed the steel, clap, clap, in a battle rap, and then you roll up on them, and then, and they work it, they work it at the retro video shop, right? So TJ's he's that same dude. So he's putting on a show. And what he did when he left was he went to this to show you, it was used as a device to let you know how well, and how, even though he's been away, how well and aware he is of his nephew and of his family and their antics. how he was able to immediately jump the fence into the neighbor's yard with this crazy dog that you could hear. The dog recognized him right away. They're cool. He's like, yeah, that's so-and-so. He don't like black folks, but he think I'm Dominican, right? That dog then goes and finds his nephew, comes back, no hassle. That machete represented a show. That machete represented, and also it was needed a necessary device to set up cutting down the lawn.
So Tami, let me ask you a question. What would Petty Betty give Tijuana Jackson as some advice?
What would she give Tijuana Jackson as some advice?
Yeah. How would she advise him to go through life now that he's out?
I think, quite honestly, Petty Betty and Tijuana Jackson are one and the same person. They just look at it differently. But you know, Tijuana Jackson is very real and very witty and very, you know, smart, and really believes the things that he's saying. Like, he lives by the things that he is saying, where Petty Betty shoots the shit a lot of the time. Okay. You know, she's smart, but she tries to, you know, just find the funny and doesn't really take anything seriously. And Tijuana Jackson takes everything seriously. So what would she tell Tijuana is nothing. he's got it. You know, she's looking to him for advice and information, because it's like, you done dropped some gems on me. But maybe to lighten up and laugh more, because he's so serious about everything he believes and everything he feels, and he just happens to be funny. Where Petty Betty,
yeah, he's intense.
Yeah.
That's good.
I want to learn how to flip those metaphors and those bars and you know, do stuff like that. I think that is so genius. Like we did a skit where my character Petty Betty interviews Tijuana Jackson for promotion of the movie, and he goes, you know, like he said something like, now here's what I thought was one of these hat bending, you know, moistening benders, you know, like, and stuff like that Petty Betty wouldn't say. Okay. You know, or like, this is what I thought that was funny, like the Asian guy in the unemployment line. Like that type of, you know, dry, witty humor is like fantastic. And I wish I was able to do that.
All right.
And put it into that, you know, into that perspective. Yeah.
That's great. I think everybody loves Petty Betty, right? We're all glad she's here, right? We're real happy.
I'm all about that podcast.
To be here.
If you haven't signed up for the podcast yet, you need to sign up for the Petty Betty podcast. Bonnie Chronicles. Yes, don't forget.
Yes,
you're welcome.
Don't forget. So I did want to ask you a question about the linguistic specialist and how he was just Tijuana, but in the end, you're Mr. Jackson. So let's talk about how his mindset has changed, you know, how you changed his mindset in the writing. Like, what's going on in his head when he sees you as Mr. Jackson instead of, Tijuana, you know?
Okay, so who are we speaking about here?
The linguistic specialist.
Okay, right. Okay, so, you know, people wanted to know what the significance of that was. Like I said, everything in this movie is symbolic of something.
Right.
Being in Hollywood, living in Texas for a good while, what I've always noticed is that quite often someone will take a position or a job that a person of color is clearly qualified for, more qualified for, and probably often in times should be the only person actually doing that type of job, right? But because of the fact that a person of color may not necessarily speak the shorthand that the gatekeeper is comfortable with or familiar with, they'd rather replace that employer. They'd rather fill that position with someone who more so reflects their own likeness, despite their level of qualifications, right? And so that linguistic specialist, that translator that we had written into that, we had written into him specifically. Wrote that in specifically to show you that, like, look, you know, there could have been, they in South Florida, there's a million brothers that could have filled this role. They opted to give the role to a Caucasian male. This is Hollywood every single day. This is Hollywood writing my story every single day, broadcasting it to the world. And then every time I step out of my house and I don't reflect the likeness of the characters that have been depicted by others of me, I'm interpreted as different, off, or better yet, sometimes I'm villainized. And as a result of that, I'm interpreted as a threat the minute I have an encounter with someone who isn't familiar with me. And so I wanted to kind of use him as a device for that. And on the idea of improvisation, you know, he was doing all the translations. He was explaining what the wit was, he was explaining what a scar mitzvah was and all that stuff. But there's a thing where he's standing and he actually explains his job.
Right.
He improvised that.
Really?
Him explaining his job, he improvised that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And speaking of Hollywood, we did. Oh, go ahead.
No, he came to me and he said, I want to share something with you. What do you think? And I was like, that's brilliant, bro. That's just brilliant. Can we do that right now? Okay, we'll do it after lunch. Calm down. We'll do it after lunch.
Right. Speaking of Hollywood, I want to talk to you a little bit about what we had a discussion about how you did this on your own. Independent in the sense that you didn't have a distributor at the time. Nobody came to you and gave you money from a studio to do this movie. Let's talk about what made you do that. What was that process like? What have you learned during that, you know?
I learned you never really do it on your own. And I think that it's probably a very compelling narrative to tell the world that I did it on my own. But
I want to say independent of Hollywood, though, is really what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Understood. I think that there's a couple of things. One thing I've learned about Hollywood is that getting people to commit money to projects is very difficult in Hollywood. But also I learned that quite often, if you're not, I don't know what the right phrase is it towing the line? If you're not aligned with the status quo of Hollywood, if you're not trying to tweak the existing narrative, it's very difficult for people sitting in offices to look at your project and say, you know, yeah, I like this, or this is a go, because everything that they sign up that looks unfamiliar or that doesn't perform well is a reflection on them. So right. I began to realize like that fear-based culture was probably never going to push forward a project with a character that had so many controversial things to say in the way that he said it, right? So the truth is, if you watch the movie, it's incredibly cryptic. Most people are telling me they cracked up the first time, and then they're saying they cracked up even more the second time. And
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I've got so many people who watch this movie more than 3 times. I'm looking at my feed right now. Shout out to Tony S. But I'm looking at my feed right now, and they're saying it. It's like, it's because the film is so layered. And I don't think that when you're sitting in Hollywood reading a particular type of script, something like this comes across your table. It's just very difficult for people to grasp when they're in that Hollywood mode. And so there just weren't a lot of people willing to take a risk of making a movie on a character like this. And they were making a lot of promises, and they were really hyped about the YouTube channel, and we're going to get this money, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And years had gone by, and I just suddenly had the realization, oh wow, I'm the side chick. I'm Hollywood's side chick. It's like,
explain that though. Go deeper.
And you're not getting your rent paid either.
Right, exactly. I'm like, oh wow. So wait a minute. So, and I'm the type of side chick that's went out there and made a little name for myself. Right. So I think I'm, you know, I hold value, and the whole time I'm just getting wolf tickets. Oh, don't worry, baby. I'm a leaver. We're gonna get a house. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. You know, my kids is just about grown. They ain't even, they so independent. They don't even need us no more, you know. And I'm going, win. Can I get a date? And I just realized I was just side checking. I realized that what I mean by that is that these were all wolf tickets. These were promises that were never coming through. And so,
Yeah.
you know, even my manager, who worked really hard, did his best really to try to raise money for it, was just unable to. It was just such an unorthodox project. And mind you, this style of filmmaking, I'm going to continue to do no matter what happens. This is the style of filmmaking I want to see, and it's what I want to do. It's how I want stories to be told. It's how I want to communicate to the world. But at that point, I decided that I would do a crowdfunding campaign because there was no other way. I was living in Puerto Rico, and I would put up some of my own money first. That would be the seed starter. And once people know you have skin in the game, they're usually more likely to join. And I was going to use the crowdfunding campaign to attract investors. A successful crowdfunding campaign would show investors. It would give you proof of concept. I think too many people lean on this. I have an idea. I have an idea. Let me just make this really clear. As TJ would say, don't nobody give a F about no idea in Hollywood. Ideas don't matter. All people care about in this business is proof of concept. That means show me a business model. Show me a fan base, a customer base that you can monetize, that you have been monetizing. When you can show me that, then we can talk. That's the game. And Hollywood's about 15 years behind music at all times. And that's how it started. And that's where the direction that music took back in the day when I was a rapper. And Hollywood eventually caught on. So you have to actually go out there and show. And my proof of concept would have been a successful crowdfunding campaign. My manager called me when I started the crowdfunding campaign, and he was like, "Hey, bro, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't think it's a good look for you. I don't like you, an established actor, and I don't like you. I think that you asking fans for money might be a bad look." So I had to pause the brother because I was in awe. I was like, "So hold up, I just want to be clear. You think I'm an established actor? You think I'm established? And we couldn't raise a few $100,000 to make a movie." And he had no rebuttal to that. So at which point I decided, all right, let me proceed with what I was doing. I don't care what kind of look it is. I need to change the trajectory of my career. And what I ended up doing was I ended up starting the music. I ended up pouring myself a drink. I ended up getting on the dance floor, dimming the lights, getting on the dance floor and dancing with my damn self. And then I decided to send out invitations. And what I basically did was I started the party first. And once the party was started, I began to ask people to join, and they were much more willing to, because it seemed as though the train was moving, right? And it taught me that no matter what you do, you start your train, the real way to exercise faith, right? The real way to exercise faith is to move forward without knowing it all. And I didn't know how it was going to come about. I knew what my intention was. I was willing to put my own money behind it. And through those actions, it incentivized other people. And I continued to learn along the way. I got more and more insight. The more real it got, the more people offered information, the more incentivized people were to contribute money. And before you know it, I had raised a couple $100,000, and I had investors waiting in line to give me more money. We turned away investors.
Wow.
Yeah, we turned away 4 investors.
Wow.
Yeah, and so in a nutshell, there was a couple of things that were important about that. One, to answer your question, it was something that I didn't think Hollywood would realistically take seriously. 2, if you make a project like this through Hollywood, they'll tell you that you have to water it down, tone the language down so that we can reach a broader audience. And then when you tone it down, they'll say, but, and it's time to distribute it, the distributor is going to tell you, well, we can only distribute it to urban America, domestic release to urban America, because you're a Black lead. So I basically watered it down for no reason, is what you're saying. You get me? And so anyway, that would be the answer to why I chose to do it myself. And then the other reason I chose to do it myself is because I am a firm believer that we need to get into the space of ownership. And ownership is a big risk, and ownership comes with costs. And, you know, I was prepared, you know, listen, I'm blessed that we had the weekend that we had. I think we might've set some records this weekend. I'm blessed for that. But it didn't have to go that way. We, you know, it didn't have to pay off in that way, and I was prepared for that. But because I still looked at ownership as a long-term journey, and to anyone who's wondering what ownership means, to me, ownership means catalog. It's not a one and done thing. It means that I make this one, and I got lucky this time, right? But who knows? I make another one, and it doesn't do that well, and then I make another one, and it does a little better. But over time, there's going to be one that lights your entire catalog up. It brings your entire catalog to life. And where ownership pays off is that usually when that one thing blows up, people start to dive into your entire catalog, and your entire catalog becomes more and more monetized. I honestly wish that I had done a few more of these. If I had known better, I wouldn't have waited on Hollywood, have done a few more of these, so that when this film came out, my catalog would be blowing up right now. But it worked out the way it's supposed to. Anyway, so that's my answer to you, is that as uncomfortable as ownership can be in these times, I think that the future is leaning towards it. Will Packer pulled me to the side back in, I want to say, back when we were doing the promotion for Almost Christmas, and he told me, I'm gonna tell you something, bro. I want you to start positioning yourself as the owner of your content, because soon you'll be able to keep the lion's share, and the distributor will be taking a small share just for placement. And that's actually the deal that we ended up negotiating.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it's luck or if it's just that it's a great movie. I think it's more a great movie that's getting a lot of play and everybody knows about it. So don't sell yourself short on that luck. I do want to also say that as I went to your page, I noticed that there was people from Africa and other countries overseas watching your movies, which I'm sure is something you've been told, that our movies don't travel well. And I'm sure you disproved that theory this weekend. I don't know if you've seen people from overseas on your feed talking to you about the movie. Have you? Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My fan base is, in fact, extremely diverse. I think it's just been since 40-Year-Old Virgin, and I've just been lucky to be a part of films like 40-Year-Old Virgin, Baby Mama, Blades of Glory, Think Like a Man, and parts of shows like Weeds and A Million Little Things. These things, and even like the Chateau that I did with Paul Rudd in France when I first started acting, even the movie I did with Vince Vaughn called The Prime Gig. Like, I think that these movies have just, all of them have, I've been blessed that they've ended up becoming like global classics, like or shows that have become highly regarded in all territories. And so as a result of that, I've built up a very diverse fan base. And to a lot of people wouldn't believe this, but believe it or not, white males between the ages of 25 to 44 first put Tijuana Jackson on the map. And it was because I had done a show. I was being interviewed as Tijuana Jackson on a show called The Night Attack with Justin Robert Young. And in fact, these two brothers ended up in my movie. These two dudes ended up in my movie. But the long and short of it is that they are the ones who started the TJ YouTube channel and everything. Okay. And then somebody thought TJ was a real person and ripped it and then put it on World Star Hip Hop. And that was my introduction to the Black audience. And then the Black audience just took it and ran with it. But from day one, I feel like in this industry, I've always had a very diverse audience. And I think that by nature, just who I am, don't get me wrong, you can tell a story about an HBCU, and maybe it won't resonate the same way to places all over the world. But then you can tell that same story about the HBCU in a more universal way, and it becomes something that's that everyone all over the world is now vying for or vying to be a part of. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it just depends. I could have gone either way with the depiction of Tijuana Jackson, and I think that we ended up with a more universal theme.
Yeah, you did. You did. Okay. Alkoya, can you talk a little bit about, I hear you're a singer. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I am a singer. Actually, oh, this turn off.
Don't downplay it. Don't downplay it. That boy is talented. Don't downplay it. Speak up, young man.
I've actually, because I had stopped like singing and everything when I started acting, because singing was my first passion. That's like how I got into acting in like a weird way. but because I wanted to do both, but I was just like, I'm gonna put all my energy into acting right now. And well, right now it's like making a full circle for me. So like now I'm learning how to produce music. So I'm producing my own music and like seeing myself getting better at it. And I know I'm gonna release music one day, but yeah, I do sing. That is a thing.
Incredible old soul, bluesy sound, and don't know where it's coming from. He looks too young to sound like he sounds. He's learned to play the guitar. It's bananas. It's bananas.
Wow. So we might be hearing music in some of Romney's upcoming movies, huh?
Maybe. That would be dope. That would be cool. But yeah, I definitely want to pursue music heavily at one point in my life.
Okay. Do you have any place where we can go hear you now, or have you not put anything up yet? Or you
I haven't put anything up yet, but I'm going to start like a YouTube channel, and I'm going to start putting things on SoundCloud and stuff, because actually like Romney inspires me in so many ways, and like I keep hearing him like own your own stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, you know, I was thinking like, so I know I want to do music, but you know, I was like, I'm gonna try to do this without a label. Like I literally sat down and sat just with myself, and I said, I'm gonna build my fan base, and I'm gonna get good at producing. That's why I'm learning how to produce my own stuff, and I'm going to own. The plan is to own all of my songs and them want me, you know, and you know, it's just a point where you have to have enough faith in yourself, in your vision to do that. It's a journey. It is not easy to like own your own stuff and like without any help, you know? I mean, you are the help, and then you get key people along the way, but you know, you start this thing. So I'm really excited to like, we'll see what happens. I'm down for the journey. I got time. I got plenty of time.
You are an old soul. Yeah, look at you.
Isn't he? And you can actually hear his music on his Instagram page. He's constantly putting stuff up on his Instagram page.
Yeah. Music. You gotta tell them.
Yeah, I forgot. I post like little snippets on Instagram. But yes, go to my Instagram. You can hear me sing some stuff.
Listen to your Uncle TJ. He's helping you out, getting yourself together, right?
Yeah. He's just inspiring. He's just inspiring, man.
Thank you, my brother.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave the conversation without talking a bit about Prison Logic. Can you talk a little bit about Prison Logic? Is that real? What's you know, we talked about Prison Logic earlier this week.
Oh, yeah. So Prison Logic is basically how this whole thing started. It started on YouTube. It didn't even start on YouTube, really. Prison Logic started in 1999, walking around doing this character, driving around doing this character, filming myself with a camcorder. And I took a break from it for a little while, and I think it might have been around 2007. I was just riding, I was digging through some old stuff and found these tapes. And I was like, oh my God, what the hell? Wait a minute. And they were funny as hell. So I started uploading them to MySpace and then eventually to YouTube. I stayed up all night one night, 24 hours, just entertaining myself, cutting them together, and started doing a live show around 2011. That live show changed everything. I think the second episode of the live show, a woman called into the show to talk about being molested in her younger years and how it's affected her life. And I didn't break character because she didn't know that the character was not real. And because she was giving so much of herself, I felt as though she was in a very vulnerable place. And to then turn around and say, hey, this is all just a joke, could have been more damaging,
right,
than to just, you know, follow through. And so we ended up talking about resources. We ended up talking about therapy. We ended up talking about different things that she might want to consider trying to do. And I'd only done this was my second show. And maybe like a week or two later, there was a whole write-up in the New York Times about that episode and this character. A full page write-up. I had no idea. And that was the beginning of me realizing I had a big responsibility. And it's one of the reasons, as Tami put it, so eloquently put it, is the one reason I started taking it so seriously was because I realized that people were actually listening, and not just the kids, the demographic. I really just made Tijuana Jackson for poor people coming from disenfranchised communities, because when I grew up in these communities, wasn't nobody teaching me about finance or personal development, the importance of therapy, what happens when you hold on to grudges, how you deal with, how do you communicate pain, how do you process pain? You know, no one taught me none of that. And I thought that those are the things that really helped me succeed. It wasn't really, you know, just about hard physical labor. It was also about like a lot of psychological work, how to control my emotions in settings where I'm being triggered. You know, you're unable to control your emotions in settings where you're being triggered, and it can cost you jobs, it can cost you careers. I've seen people blackballed for it. And so
it can cost you your freedom, right? Like,
it can cost you your freedom. And so I wanted to, that's why I made it for. But when the New York Times did that write-up, I realized, oh, so we ain't the only ones listening, right?
Right.
And that could be for better or for worse. And so I took it much more seriously.
Okay.
Okay.
So good.
And I want to go to Tami on this. You know, I ain't gonna lie, Tami, I hear you with Petty Betty cracking jokes and stuff like that, but keeping it 100, you always drop gems. You're always, it's like the jokes on Petty Betty, but you're mirroring all of us.
Right.
And so what, for you, was that a conscious decision that you were going to help use comedy to communicate messages that you thought were important? Because you're like a therapist. You read through the thing. People, oh, I got my therapy this morning. Amen.
And then
it was not.
And
so
that question, I want to know, do you wear the bonnet to connect with us? Because we all wearing our bonnets, but nobody's brave enough to wear it on social media except you. But we feel real good when we see it. It's like talking to our sister.
Right. Initially, none of that was in my mind. Bonnet Chronicles started because someone was, you know, talking mess, and I was on vacation, and I logged, you know, into social media, and I saw what, you know, articles and blog posts about what they were saying. And I said, oh, well, let me just answer this real quick about what my thoughts are about what they've said about me. And I posted it. That video went viral. And then it just became a matter of, you know, I have a lot of things on my mind. Like I'm always thinking something about some situation, and it's not necessarily always something political or, you know, trying to be thought-provoking, but just an experience I might have gone through. And I felt like other people have gone through those things too. And so that's really how it started, and how the journey continued was just me saying things that I think people want to say, but are afraid of how they will be received if they say them. And the bonnet was just because I had my bonnet on the very first time I did a video. And so I was like, well, okay, now I don't have to pretend. I don't need this wig on. Like I got this wig on right now. I don't need that on. I don't need all the makeup. You know, people still like the video with me just being raw and real. And so I continued that. But as Bonnet Chronicles grew and more people became aware of that particular entity, like Romany said, I didn't even know who Tami Roman was. That started happening a lot, where people were like, they had no clue of Basketball Wives, no clue that Tami and Petty Betty were the same. They just would come up to me. I love Bonnet Chronicles. You're the Bonnet Chronicles lady. And so it took on its own persona and its own identity. And so that's when I started feeling not obligated, because that's not the right word, but just inside of me, I knew that I had to give more, because more people were tuning in and more people were being receptive to whatever I was putting out. So I didn't want it all the time to be just funny joke. And so I started incorporating those little messages that people are better at receiving when there's comedy involved. And I took it one step further and I said, well, people are out there hurting, and sometimes it's not funny. And I developed a segment of Bonnet Chronicles called The Power Minute, where I use those as just completely inspirational words of wisdom, trying to just uplift somebody that might be listening. Sometimes I use my own situation. Sometimes I pull script from the Bible, and I just keep evolving what Bonnet Chronicles. People still love it as much as they did when I wasn't talking about nothing but fried chicken and weaves, so so that they're into the evolution. And I think people have been very receptive, and I think they love what I do, and they love the voice of Petty Betty. And here again, she's just that, I like to say she's the ratchet voice of the people. She's going to say exactly what everybody's thinking, but most are afraid to say.
Right. And that, in my opinion, is how you get an audience to grow with you rather than grow away from you. That is it right there.
Away from you.
Yeah, we're all evolving. And I think we get to points where a lot of times with me, particularly with YouTube, I get to a different level of understanding of things. And then it's sad, but I just have to move on from the mentors that I was using at that time. But it's really nice to see when the mentors are growing and actually we're growing together. So
together. Yes.
That's the most loyal fan base.
I'm such a huge fan as well of Bonnet Chronicles. I love it so much. It's so, I discovered it like a year ago.
Like you 12 and you about to be 18. I'm all like, oh baby.
Thank you. No, seriously, it's incredible. I discovered it like a year ago because I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, she's really good. I was like, it's like, this is her, but it's not her. I was like, this is incredible. This is unbelievably believable. Your performance is solid every time, and it has me dying. I scroll. It's amazing. Yeah.
Two more audience questions. One is, will Tijuana Jackson be a series? They want to see Tijuana every week. And the second one is, they want to know where they get that t-shirt. Romany.
All right. Y'all got good taste. If y'all want this t-shirt, you go to TijuanaJackson.com and you can snag this t-shirt right here. Another way you can get this t-shirt is when you go to watch the movie, take a screenshot of your receipt when you purchase the movie, post it with the hashtag Tijuana Jackson movie. And I got a team scrolling through the internet, constantly looking for people who've using that hashtag and showing their receipt. And you qualify to win this. You qualify to win. I don't know if y'all saw me and Tiffany Haddish last night, but we were going through the Tijuana Jackson care package. It's the inmate support package, and it's got a lot of things in it that I'm not going to mention because we got Alkoya in the house. But yeah. So yeah, TijuanaJackson.com, and you can grab one of these. I love the artwork on it, and I'm gonna just go ahead and floss since folks are asking. I'm gonna just go ahead and go all out on y'all. Please forgive me. Don't worry. We sending yours, Tami, and Alkoya, yours is on its way.
Because I'm pulling up the website. Like, well, let me order my damn shirt.
Woo!
Also on the website.
Yeah.
Is the mask available as well for purchase, the mask too on the website?
Yeah, everything's on the website. TijuanaJackson.com shows you all the places you can watch the movie. It shows you how to join our street team if you want to help promote. It's a small film. One of the most successful marketing techniques I think that we've used on this film is that, and there have been few, we've got the distributor has been collecting data and running ads based on that data. I think that's a huge contributing factor that you cannot overlook. But I also think that another thing is there's a lot of enthusiasm around the film and the way that it speaks to the community. And so we've had a lot of people join our street team. And what that basically means is they text me 954-228-8380. That's 954-228-8380. They hit me up. And when I have time, I just send everybody links to all the stuff that we use to promote. The posters, they get to download the posters, they can download the trailers, the red band trailer or the original trailer. They get to download all the digital artwork that we use and then turn around and post it to their own platforms. And some of them have 5, 6 followers. Some of them have 500, 600 followers, but they're all reaching people that I wouldn't be able to, or we wouldn't be able to reach on our own. And the people who are enthusiastic about getting the word out and making that happen they've been one of the reasons that we did what we did this weekend. They're the reason that the numbers look the way that they look. And so we stick to that formula.
Mhm.
But to answer your question, that lady sitting right there, that woman right there, the beautiful one, the one, yeah, that one right there.
Yeah.
The beautiful lady.
I'm ordering my shirt.
Oh, I'm with the shirt right now.
Yo, I'm gonna go get my bonnet in a minute. Keep playing. Stop it. Let me send you this. Let me send you this stuff.
You can still send it, but I'm still buying mine because I want it now.
I love you and I appreciate you. I love you and I appreciate you. Alkoya, don't pick up your phone. But that lady right there, that lady was the first person to come on set and say to me, Romany, this is going to series.
Yep.
She's the first one. And I'm gonna tell you something. That was deep down inside, that's my dream. My dream is to run my own show, right? And I write the narrative. I help control the narrative. I have my own writers team. We come up with this material and then use this material to change the narrative, to change the way in which we are depicted, to change, people like, why don't you write about kings and queens? I don't know no fucking kings and queens. I'm just keeping it real. I don't know no kings and queens. This is who I know. I know successful people who've come from the mud. I know successful people who were born into success. And I do see the difference of education from people who were born poor in this country versus people who were born into wealth. And I went to school in Trinidad and Tobago as a kid. And one thing that really stood out was being poor in Trinidad did not equate to a poor education, as where being poor in the United States of America does equate to a poor education.
Yeah.
So I take it upon myself to educate in the only way that I know how, or the best way that I know how. And I have found that I have 2 tools. I'm good at telling stories and I'm good at making people laugh. And so I'm taking those 2 things and using them as a means to communicate messages, because what we don't realize is that there's this thing called cultivation theory, which is, I have a whole textbook on it, literally a textbook. It's all I could find. And it explains how when you sit in front of a screen or a television or whatever, you fall into like what's called like theta state, sometimes beta, sometimes alpha. And you're being programmed by these images. So a prime example is a family comes downstairs, you're watching a sitcom, the family comes downstairs, they sit at the breakfast table and they all start pouring out cereal. And they're cracking jokes and making you laugh. And you're sitting there kind of in this, you're vegging out. And what you don't realize is that that's programming your subconscious to interpret eating cereal as a family together as a societal norm. It becomes part of your daily, of your everyday activity. It becomes part of your family's tradition. Now, here's what's crazy about that. Do the research on what it means to eat those types of carbs every morning. I'm gonna tell you what it means. It means in about 15 years, you're gonna have what's called fatty liver and a host of other ailments that follow that. So we have to start being a bit more responsible if we want to do better for us. So you look at that and you don't understand that the government, there's incentives from the government because lobbyists like the food industry goes to the White House with lobbyists and pays people off to incentivize Hollywood or these programs to include these things, these subliminal messages in our programming. We don't know that that's happening, but that's a whole industry in and of itself. So now we're being programmed to accept things as societal norms that really just leads us down the road of needing pharmaceuticals. So I want to be one of those people in the game that's actually, if we're going to be programming, let's program some useful stuff. Let's program a better understanding about what it means to invest so that people who deal with risk, who are risk averse or who have, I forgot what it's called, it's a certain type of bias, cognitive biases that we have that interpret a variation or deviation from the norm as a loss. right? They interpret, just because things aren't the same, they automatically interpret it as a loss. Let's help change that programming. So now we understand that a deviation from the norm could actually be progress. And how do we achieve that? How do we take control of that? How do we actually program ourselves to identify the difference between satiating ourselves and actually nutrifying ourselves? Because quite often they are two different things. You get what I'm saying? So all of this can be done through storytelling. It can be done catching people in that theta state or whatever it's called, catching them vegging out in front of a screen, watching your show, and you're planting seeds that help them to empathize better. You're planting seeds that help them to think more critically. You're planting seeds that encourage them to eat healthier. So that's the game. That's the real game in the simplest of terms. And you ain't gonna hear a whole lot of folks break it down like that, but me and TJ, that's how we talk.
Yeah, you know, I'm thinking I'm listening to TJ right now, which is great. Right? You know, and I hope, I'm glad you put it out there in the universe. People want to see it as a series. I'm sure that will happen. I want to say that this has been very good for everyone who's watching. You know, shout out to your sister, Regina Hall, who couldn't make it, but she's also a very big part of this movie. But I hope everybody watching realizes that, and I don't know if you cast it like this on purpose, Romney, but there are 3 owners in this cast. Romney's owning his own stuff, right? Your own show, your own movie. Tami owns her own podcast and her own persona of Petty Betty, Bonnet Chronicles. And Alkoya, he's about to take over the music game and just come out the gate owning, right? And that's really, really important for everyone who's watching. I want to give you all a chance to say anything else that you want to say to the audience who's listening and watching before we close out. Anything you want to say to them at all?
Man, the first person I want to hear is Tami Roman.
Okay, Romney. Listen, I want to just thank everyone who has taken the time to support this film. And as Romney spoke to his journey and how this all came about, I would like to put it a little more simpler than how Tijuana did or how Romney did. Hollywood is full of ish, okay? And the people who have these jobs and these positions, and they're supposed to be heads of development and they're supposed to be creative, they are not. And so what ends up happening is that they put a bunch of stuff on TV that they think we want to see. They try to target and profile what they think will be entertained by. And some of the most amazing projects go undone. And I want to commend Romney for recognizing that he had something good and he had something that people would want to see, that he had a character that people believed in and stepped out on faith and did it himself. Because that, if you don't learn anything from Tijuana, learn that much from Romney. That is what it's all about, is going out there and making your own opportunities. And the way the world is right now, it's very easy to do. I've done nothing special by creating Bonnet Chronicles. You yourself at home could do the exact same thing and build a following and be able to monetize it. And so what Romney taught me, even through this journey, was like projects that I'm like banging down doors and trying to get people to believe in and, oh, please help me. You don't have to do that. You just have to figure out a way to be able to do it yourself and believe in yourself enough to know that you will accomplish it. And once you step out on that amount of faith, you end up right where Romney is today, where he's telling we broke records and I own it. And so I think that's the most valuable thing that I took away from this interactive live here, is like, for me, because I've been battling with what to do. And I said, that's confirmation right there. Much like he often does when this brother speaks, I'm so engaged And I always feel enlightened, and I always feel like I'm walking away with something, and it was no different this time. And I appreciate everybody that's watched the movie. I'm thankful to Romany for casting me and letting me be a part of the Tijuana Jackson journey. I think all of the actors in it are amazing. I was so excited to work with Regina Hall. And so, and Romany, forgive me, I said this is us earlier. I meant to say a million little things, so I apologize for that, because that was an error that I know, but just thank you, brother, because I think what you're doing is needed. And I don't think that there's anybody out there doing it like you're doing it. And so if there's an opportunity where we can all come back together and this be a series or a part 2 of Tijuana's journey, I would be the first one in line at the same rate you hired me for the first time. No, but I'm just kidding. But I just love you and everything that you're doing and everything that you represent and everything that you stand for. And when I look out at you, I want to emulate the greatness that I see in you. And I think you're doing such an amazing job. So that's all I have to say. Alkoya, you're next. We'll let Romany close it out.
That was incredible, Tami. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's supporting this movie, and this is a testament to never give up on your dream. And I was actually just having a conversation with my mom, and she's like, "You don't realize it, but you created your own opportunities." And I was like, "Wow," because I told my mother at 7 years old that I wanted to be inside the TV. And if I wouldn't have, we were just having this deep conversation the other night, and I was like, well, I never thought about it that way, because if I would have been this scared 7-year-old, what is she gonna say? And I literally told her at 7 years old, I was like, well, I don't know anybody else who could do it for me but you're my mother. And that tore her. She was talking, she's like, that tore me apart, because she was like, yeah, I am your mother, and I have to help you create these opportunities from a younger person's perspective. But I started off as an extra. Like, I've done over 200 extra commercials, and now I'm in this amazing film, and now I have the #1 movie in the world on Netflix right now, which is just insane to literally start off as an extra. Thank you. Start off as an extra, to just see the growth in and I was thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, this 7-year-old boy started this opportunity just by saying, "Mother, I want to be an actor." And thank you. I love you so much, Mom, which I know you're watching this, for believing in me and my dream. But yeah, just chase your dream. Like, you never know. Go for it. You only have one life. So whatever movie you're trying to film, whatever dream you're trying to pitch, whatever, do it. Do it yourself. Nobody's gonna believe in you more than you. Like, that's just the way it is. So yeah, that's it.
We thank your mama too. We're very glad she helps you. We're so glad to see your talent. Yes.
Thank you.
Yo, Kids Profound. I'm just covering my eyes for a minute. I got a little emotional. Give me a second. No. First of all, actually, I want to say thank you, Lamonia, for doing such a great job of moderating this event.
Yes.
You are,
Thank you.
Understanding your background. You fed me. You've enlightened me in the short time that we've spoken. You've given me so much insight. Your background is phenomenal. I'm hoping that we can continue to do more stuff together, and you've been outstanding. So thank you for that. And the other thing I want to say is that this film could not have been what it was, what it has become, if it weren't for Alkoya, Tami, Regina Hall, and Bajalyn Odom, who plays TJ's mom, Shannon Dang, who plays the documentarian, Tyler Cassidy, who plays the cameraman. It couldn't have been this. It wouldn't have been this, because there's something that each one of these entertainers, these actors have in their spirit that can't be taught. And so if I pride myself on anything, it was the ability to identify it. And the rest really was just them bringing that fire. And so that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is thank you to each and every one of you for bringing that fire, because it has been an incredibly good look for this project. It has been incredibly inspiring, and it's kind of set the tone for what I aspire to moving forward. The third thing I want to say is to every single person out there, if you listen to the testimonies of the testimonials of the individuals involved in this project, what you will notice is that it takes a lot of hard work. And I think that from my observation, what inhibits most of us from actually achieving our dreams is that we underestimate how much hard work and how much time we spend trekking in the dark. Every single person here, 200 extra, he did 200 commercials as an extra.
Yeah.
I know for a fact when you're an extra, there's no connections, there's no through line. You just, there's no one saying, hey, so look, we got a couple of projects. I know how extras are treated. Tami, as I've gotten to know more and more about Tami and understand, she's, believe it or not, Tami's who I'm looking to for how to move forward with Tijuana Jackson. I want Tami's consultation because she's done so much trial and error, not just with Tami Roman, but also with Bonnet Chronicles. And she's found ways to monetize and sustain herself without Hollywood's approval. That's the business model I'm aspiring to. And so to every single person out there who's got any kind of dream, I don't care if you just want to, if your goal is to get into retail, maybe you are an artist yourself. When it really boils down to it is that the work is so hard. It requires so much faith. And when I say faith is like sometimes doing things and working extremely hard without knowing what the outcome is going to be and trusting the process. These angels show up. These angels show up. These angels showed up, the Edding brothers, and insisted that I make this into a movie. I made this YouTube channel. So the Tijuana Jackson YouTube channel was so that I could inspire a disenfranchised group of young adults. And they turned around and told me I needed to make a movie. So it turned out that they ended up inspiring me. All of these little angels that have come up along the way. I got 1,911 angels that contributed anywhere between $1 and $10,000 to make this movie happen. Angels, just they pop up. You gotta be extremely specific in what it is you're aspiring to. And trust me when I tell you this, I'm a 51-year-old man who can tell you now that the universe rewards specificity. Yeah, the more specific you are, the easier it is for people to honor your vision and find their place within it. So those are the things that I want to say. And then lastly, I want to say, I really need y'all to find it in your heart to believe that you deserve to go to TijuanaJackson.com and watch this damn movie. So them the three things I want. Them the three things I'm saying. And some real quick shout outs to some folks out here that's trying to blow up the channel. I want to shout out to Carver Smith, Rashad Hatchett. I want to shout out Oshkosh Davis, Kimberly Morgan, and Destin Taylor. I want to shout out Good Deeds Entertainment. I want to shout out Garland Pictures. I want to shout out Regina Hall, who's in Australia doing the damn thing right now. Yeah. I want to shout out Nikki. Nikki is Alkoya's mom. What up? I want to shout out Reggie for letting us have some time with his queen. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's like 6:35 on the West Coast. Folks usually talking about dinner at this point. I want to thank Olivia over at Good Deeds for doing all the social media stuff, but I want to thank Shayla. I want to thank Shayla Cowens, because Shayla Cowens, and I want to thank Will Packer, I want to thank James Lopez. Let me tell you something about Shayla. I want to thank the Atlanta Film Festival, but let me tell you something about Shayla Cowens. She works for a company that is making hundreds of millions of dollars yearly. And she went hard for this little film where I would go online and she'd be going live, giving away t-shirts and breaking out in sweat. interviewing people. Like, she went so hard for this film that I get emotional talking about it, because it's unprecedented, and you know, it's an incredible gesture of like sincere devotion. And there are a lot of people who've been that devoted to this project, and I'm grateful for every last one of you. Please, I promise you, I'm not telling you that you're going to go see this big, broad, funny comedy. That's not what this is. This is a very dark, grounded, real life situation that is circumstantially funny. So don't go expecting some over-the-top farce, big studio film. Nope, nope, nope. Everything that I do moving forward is like this. It's real, it's relatable, and applicable. And it just happens to be funny.
Funny.
And then my closing thing is that there's a lot of work that needs to be done within our judicial system. I want every single person here to really go get a better understanding of what it means to redefine our judicial system, what it means to create resources and build resources within our communities that give people and inmates coming out of prison the opportunity to actually get psychological treatment and psychotherapy to help assimilate them back into civilian life. Because what we don't realize is that a lot of this thug culture that you see is very much influenced by prison culture. It's almost hypocritical to talk about a history in the United States of America without talking about the judicial system. It's almost hypocritical, because the prison industrial system complex is an extension of slavery. And I know it sounds like hyperbole, but the research, I'm talking about the court transcripts, the laws, the acts that were put in place by government to ensure just that. Remember, Black people were brought here for money. They were brought here to help build an economy. Don't forget, America ain't coming off of that no time soon. I ain't trying to come off of that no time soon. So it's important for us to, rather than write off individuals who get out of prison, or write off the individuals who have got the strikes against them, it's important to understand that we insist upon things in our community that help assimilate these gentlemen back into civilian life in a way that is productive. And if they're going to be doing all these jobs inside of the prison, they should be getting paid not 26 cents a minute. They should an hour. They should be getting paid 26 cents a minute. And then some of that money should be put on the side so that when they get out, they have something to work with. So we as individuals all have to consider that. We have to also understand that we have an incredibly toxic police system. Yes. Our law enforcement is incredibly toxic, and I'll tell you why. I got homies that are cops. I just want to make this clear. I'm not telling you that police are toxic. I'm saying the system is toxic, because ever since the civil rights movement, one of the first orders issued to the KKK was to infiltrate law enforcement as a means of carrying out the white supremacist agenda. So what happens is that you have a lot of white supremacist gangs. There's one being blown up in California right now. They on the chopping blocks right now for being, I forgot the name of the gang, but they're on the chopping blocks right now because they just exposed that there are about 750 cases that may be overturned because of their racial bias and their connection. There's another law enforcement team called the BDRT. You know what that stands for? Baby Daddy Removal Team. These are white supremacists parading through and using law enforcement as a means of carrying out furthering the white supremacist causes. And they're protected by something called, I can't even think of what it's called right now, but it's just a Supreme Court law that makes it very difficult to hold them accountable. My point being is that we have to be very proactive in our local vote, your local municipality, because that's what's going to have the immediate effect. So while our president, who is saying, listen, I was in the Marine Corps, I'm never going to come out publicly and speak poorly against any president. It's maybe it's Marine Corps programming. I just think it's alienating. I don't think that because of the fact that you and I may differ in politics, that you and I can't find common ground. So I've noticed in American culture, the minute that you oppose someone's political beliefs, you might as well have opposed their religious beliefs, because they react the same way. So what I've chosen to do is stick to policy. And in sticking to policy, the point that I was trying to make, I completely forgot. But the long and short of it is that we need to be a bit more proactive in understanding what local politics means, how our local municipality can actually affect immediate change in our communities. And we need to make that sexy and not be so distracted by White House politics that we forget to clean up our own backyards. And that's all I got to say. Thank you for having me.
Oh, that was great. That was a great way to end it. Relief of civil disabilities is something people really need to understand, and they need to, and what that is, you know, getting people back all of their rights after they come home from prison. And a lot of people don't fight for relief of civil disabilities. And it is something that you should be talking to. It's $2,500. You can go ahead and do it. But I want to congratulate Alkoya, because this is your first presidential election coming up, right? Will this be the first time you voted for the president?
No, actually, because my birthday is November the 22nd.
Oh,
so next year, whenever, not next year, but whenever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. I really want to. I'm desperate to vote, but I can't.
Well, let me tell you, you can be a poll worker. You can be a poll worker, even if you can't vote. You can be a poll worker at 17 years old, so you can still have a part in it, you know. But congratulations on turning 18, and thank you guys. I know it's late. Appreciate you for spending all this time with us, and let's say goodnight to everybody.
Yes, and someone just reminded me of what the law is. It's qualified immunity. And the reason it's important, before I go, the reason that qualified immunity is important and why voting locally is important. Here's a prime example. Our president said that he was willing to discuss police reform, but he was not willing to discuss qualified immunity. Qualified immunity is a law that makes it extremely difficult to hold police officers accountable or any public official accountable for violating your rights. Well, here's what you need to understand about qualified immunity, is that it basically requires you to find a law already established that can prove that the right that you had violated was already established as a right in the first place. And unless you were able to find another lawsuit that matches that identically, usually you're pretty much asked out. So why does local politics matter in relation to qualified immunity? Because while our president's saying he's willing to discuss police reform, but he's not willing to discuss qualified immunity, the governor of Colorado has already started a bill to remove qualified immunity and to remove qualified immunity. So that's local politics. That's local protesters being like, enough is enough. And let's not forget that Colorado was the place that the 6 and 7-year-old girls and the little kids were handcuffed and hogtied at gunpoint, little girls, because of a quote unquote stolen car, allegedly stolen car. So let's not forget, qualified immunity there is about to be gone because of local politics and people being like, enough is enough. So what I need for all of us to do is, let's not just get hype on social media. Let's get hype in real life and go fight this shit. Let's go get rights for folks. Let's go get rights for our Uncle TJs. Let's go get Uncle TJ, right? Some resources so that he can actually have a fair shot at life. And as Lamonia said, be restored his rights once he's supposedly paid his debt to society, supposedly been rehabilitated based on what the law refers to imprisonment as, incarceration as in the first place. So please, I beg of you to be proactive in your local vote.
Thank you.
I love that.
You got a life as a public speaker. I hope you know that.
Yeah.
Speaker.
Jim.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tami. Thank you, Alkoya.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Later. All right, we logging on now.
I think Kristen is going to log us off.
Okay. Bye, Alkoya.
Bye.
Later, y'all.